Okay, got another graft here I'm going to show you. Now this one right here is going to be like, what in the world are you doing? And this graft right here is used quite a bit by orchard keepers, by people who wants to start seedlings and really get them going, and they want to change, or they may have one that they've grafted and they want to change the cultivar. There's a video out there by Kentucky State University of Neil Peterson conducting this graft. A little bit different than what I do with cherry crab tree, and it's a form of top work. Now, sir, can you step up here for a minute, please? Did you say your last name was Winchester? Or?
No.
What's that? Armstrong. I'm sorry. Mr. Armstrong, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and there's a reason why I'm doing this. Earlier today, have a seat right here. Earlier today, I was out there milling around, and Mr. Armstrong, I noticed he had a bigger tree, and he's asking questions. How do I go about grafting something like this when my scion wood is so small? And I said, we're going to cover that. And that's the reason why I brought him up here, so he can have a good idea and have a good look at what I was talking about. I'm not embarrassing you.
No.
Good. I'll work harder on that. No, I'm just kidding. But this graft right here, I use this graft quite often. And inlay graft, some people call it a bark graft. I went out to Iowa, and I visited with Tom Wall, Red Fern Farms, and this is one graft that Tom told me that he really liked using within his orchard. I've used it quite a bit, and as you can see, as you can see, the scion is much smaller than the rootstock. Okay, and what I'm going to do is break the tree out. Now, this right here is a root sucker. Anybody that don't know what a root sucker is? You don't know what a root sucker is? All right. A root sucker is a growth that comes from the root system of the tree. One of the things with the emerald ash borer did, the tree suckered, was an indication that it was suffering from emerald ash borers. And what it would do is from the stalk down low, they would shoot out growth, and that's how you knew the tree was hit by the borers pretty much. And I'll tell you something else. When a tree is stressed out, it'll shoot that out down in the bottom. That's an indication that you got stress going on within that tree, which is a bad thing, because any tree that's in distress, it's ringing a dinner bell to things like ambrosia beetle, things like peduncle borer. When these trees are suffering, you'll have that issue. That's one of the reasons why I try to do as much foliage feeding as possible to my trees. The healthier your tree is, the more likely it's able to deflect that issue. So healthier trees are number one, and I'm a very big particular person on that. Matter of fact, the Department of Agriculture come to my house and did an inspection of my nursery and everything. The guy, last year we were dealing with a drought, and the guy stood out there in my driveway. He looked down into my yard and he saw 2 trees there, and he looked at me and he said, "You've got the nicest trees I've seen all year." Everybody else's trees were suffering. My trees weren't suffering like that. As a matter of fact, everybody's fruit was small. I was getting optimum sizes of fruit. And one thing is, my environment is one. Number 2, I do what I can to take care of them trees. It's just like peach growers, apple growers, and stuff like that. You spray your trees quite a bit, don't you, Kevin? Kevin's a fanatic when it comes to that with his trees. I'm trying to get him to convert to pawpaws. I've almost got him.
Got 29 planted.
All right. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what you're seeing right there. It's a bark graft or inlay. It's actually in my book called an inlay graft. And for orchard keepers, that is a form of it's a form of top working. I don't identify it as a form of top working. I identify it a little bit differently. Oh, and incidentally, one thing I will tell you, whenever you're dealing with different cultivars, you'll find as time goes on and you're dealing with different cultivars, some of them are more vigorous than others. Some of them are more friendlier than others as far as willing to accept a graft. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a stick of wood out of here, or aka scion, and what I want to do is I'm going to look for a particular size that I can work with. I got a number of different sizes of scion in here, and for a good reason. Now, while I'm sitting here playing tiddlywinks, just to show you, you'll notice there's a paper towel in there that's moist. I'm keeping that scion as moist as possible. Don't want to saturate it, I want to keep it moist. Now, as you can see, this is much bigger than this. And as you can see, down here is bigger than up here. As you're looking at the scion wood, your growth is going upwards. Out, away from the tree, is where your terminal ends up. And it gets smaller and smaller and smaller as it grows up. It's just like this. There's more base down here than there is up here. Same concept. It happens throughout the entire tree. Every branch here, it does the same thing up this way. So, now whenever you're doing this graft right here, you want to try with pawpaws, you want to try with stay somewhere around 1/3 of the diameter to match. And this is the graft that you and I talked about, Mr. Armstrong, that you're going to want to try to conduct on the trees that you were speaking of. And I did a graft on like this just yesterday at my house, or day before yesterday. It was that big around. And whenever I cut it, I used a coping saw because these aren't big enough. I used a coping saw. Now something else I also want to show you that I'll do, I'm going to come, it doesn't matter, I think I'll go right there. And what I'll do, while I'm thinking about it here, I give you an opportunity, young man, pass that around you. You guys take a look at the end of that. You can actually see the green, how nice and fresh that is. That's what you want. Now, as I said, I want that cut. I want this and this, the different sizes. I want this to be roughly around 1/3. And one thing that I will show you that I do whenever I make cuts on bigger trees like that, I don't use a knife. I don't use a knife because it'll slip. I did that and it slipped on me. But what I will do, pull a little trick out that Mark likes to use, a little razor blade. I have control, okay? And with that control, I feel confident about what I'm doing. Give it a little bit of a spritz. Get my tiny towel. I'm going to dab it. So, 'cause I don't want to burn it. Okay. Because I made that cut, in my mind, whether it's right or wrong, I don't care. What I feel is right for me is how I feel. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to shave it. I'm going to shave it a little bit. Now I'm going to take a look though while I'm shaving, and I'm going to turn it around because I'm looking at the tree. You can see how it's laying in the pot. It's kind of going off a little bit. See that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to shave. And as I'm shaving it, I'm making an angle.
So you're not shaving it completely flat, you're making it bevel.
I'm not making it completely flat, I'm not beveling it, I'm setting an angle. Alright? If you look at what I'm doing is, and you take a look, you can see I've got a pitch. Just a slight pitch is all I want. And then what I want to do is I want to come to the back side of that pitch. Now I'm going to look at my scion, and usually when you're going this big, one thing that you can do, and I have done, is go 3 buds, because we're dealing with something big here. Something big here is going to be pushing a lot of energy. Alright, so I want 3 buds.
Is there a reason that you cut it straight and then shave it to an angle versus just
Because I'm
cutting
just
it at
trying
an
to get
angle
it to the
originally?
size. I shave it to an angle. Remember I said I crushed it when I clipped it, so I'm going to clean that up anyways.
Okay.
All right, because that's a lot of force, and I'm digging down on something big. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look, and that scion is roughly 1/3 the size of that rootstock. Now, what I'm going to do is, and this is something that I do, I'm going to get my buddy tape out, set it there, get it ready to go. I won't have my other knife.
Jim?
There it is. Yeah,
Is that what you're looking for?
I got mine.
Yeah.
What I want to do is I want to look at my scion wood. The reason why I want to look at scion wood is because whenever I put this in here, I want bud to go across the top of this. And the reason being is because I want balance brought back into that tree. If I graft it this way, and I have a bud here, and a bud here, it's going to push, push, and push, and I'm going to have a spot over here, and I don't want that. I'm trying to bring balance back into that tree by doing it this way. And with the 2 buds, makes it even better. I'm in line with the 2 buds. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut a wedge on one side, and then I'm going to try and make it nice and long. And then this back side, I'm going to cut a wedge, but not as long. But I do want a wedge. I have a wedge cut. One side longer than the other side. The side that's longer is the side that's going to kiss the tree, the heart of the tree. Now, sometimes what I'll do is, just for good measure, like I did with the bark graft, I'll try to barely nick, because I want to expose cambium. And this is one time I'll go ahead, like I said earlier, is with the whip and tongue, the cleft graft, and the graft that I'm doing right now, this is what I like to do. I like to get my parafilm on there. And then, like I said, I don't want no rocking back and forth. I want it, once I put that booger in there, I want it to stay there. It's going to rock a little bit, but not as much. Then I'm going to set that down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this, and I'll take my thumb, I'll line the blade. Now if I want to go just a little, I want to try and figure out where do I want it. I'll go just a little bit off center, all right, and I'll just take my thumb and I'll push it, and you'll feel it pop. You can actually feel it push through there, and then take it out. That's when I'll use this, or I'll use this backside like we talked about earlier with chip button. And because I come off center just a little bit, I want to come over this way, and what I'm going to do is it's not long enough to hold, and that's okay, doesn't matter. And I'm going to look at my scion, bud here, send it straight across, and I want scion over here to touch. I'm touching scion on this edge. I want that to touch, and see, this is what I'm talking about with rocking. It's going to rock a little bit while I'm getting this set up. And as you can see, I don't have parafilm right here, but I will have, because I want to use buddy tape because I can get a longer piece off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. I'll give it a couple wraps just to make sure. It's split, too much stretch. I'm going to give it a couple wraps just to make sure I have a good seal, because I got my split down here still yet. I want that split covered. And then straighten her out. Took my thumb, I just pushed on it to make sure it's even. And I'm going to come right back up here, and I'm going to make it all the way up to the scion. I just covered the scion back up, and I'm going to come to this back side that I lost out on, and I'm going to bring it back down, and this is where I'm going to start being methodical. I'm going to wrap back up. I'm going to come over top of the rootstock. I'm going to keep working on it. Then I'm going to come back up again. I'm going to come to the top of the rootstock once again, and then my next wrap, if I have enough scion or tape, I'm going to come back around once again, bring it up, and I'm going to bring it across the top. Everything's sealed. Everything completely sealed up. If you look at your pamphlet, you can actually see what that graft looks like. Yes, sir.
Is this another one where you would have just like one side of the scion would be lined up with the cambium?
No, we got. What? Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I got twisted around. Yeah, I got one side touching here just in case, but on this back side, I got cambium touching. That's why I shave that mark just a hair. Everything's touching there. Now, the tree that I did that was bigger that I told you about, I used this. It's repair tape, and I could really tighten up on that. Now, Mr. Peterson, he does this graft, but he makes 2 slits, and then he'll graft it up. 2 slits, that's more of a weak point in my eyes. So I stick with 1 slit and tuck it back underneath there, because the bark actually helps to hold it in place. And I do, with the bigger tree, I use this. I did it with persimmons, with trees that big around in my back of my property. And this is what I use. It's repair tape. It's black electrical repair tape. I like the black better than I do the white because the black generates heat. And that's only use that on a bigger tree. But what I'm going to do here is I have different sizes of rubber bands that I use. That's a .10, 3/8 wide, 8-inch long, 8-inch long, .16 gauge, .20 gauge, 4 inches long, and 8-inch long, .20 gauge. This is a very stiff rubber band. It does the trick that I want it to do, because when it comes to this graft, I want that good tight hold, and it's because of wind. A lot of these grafts that I do like this, I don't put a stake on them. Now what Neil does when that 2-slit, you've got to have a stake on there. Now, and actually tell you the truth, I got one there at the house. The picture of the graft itself is inside the pamphlet. We had that hard wind and everything, and that tree never broke out. This tent, when I got in here, man, I had to put poles back up. We had stakes we had to drive back down. So that tree held together. And that was grafted last year. So what we're going to do is, I got my rubber band started. I'm pulling on it. I want that bark to say hello to that scion. And then, as you see, it's twisting. I don't want to twist. Put my finger on there. See how that twisted? You don't want that. That'll create an air pocket underneath your bark. You don't want to keep it nice and flat. And I'm working my way down. I'm going to keep working my way down. So I want to get down to the slit. I want to push that slit back together. I want that slit back in line. And then I want to do that again. This time, I'm going to go back up. Now, when you wrap like that, and you keep wrapping like that, it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Grab a rubber band and wrap it around your finger and keep wrapping it over top of itself. You'll find out how tight it gets. The finger turns purple. And I'm going to loosen up a little bit on the pulling. I'm not going to pull like I did in the beginning. I'm loosening up a little bit. And that's what I want to do. I want to loosen up a little bit. I want to go ahead and go a little bit looser yet and come back down again. When with these big rubber bands, that little trick I showed you with the thumb, no, that's a headache. I take a look at my tag in. I think I can use one more wrap. And then I'm going to put my finger in there, my index. I'm going to stick it back here just like that. Bring it around. It's still flat, as flat as I can keep it. You're going to get a twist because it wants to roll. And there you have it, Jerry's big girl. Did that help you out there?
Jim, some people would cover that cut section on top of stock with foil or dark tape. Do you notice any difference in leaving it exposed? I mean, down there where the graft is.
Right here.
Yeah. Do you notice any difference whether you cover that or not?
No.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. This will, if it takes, here's what will end up happening. And I got one at home that did this. I end up with the bottom bud. The top bud was the first one to push. The bud back here pushed. And then all of a sudden that bottom bud, towards the end of the summer, it started to push. I had two buds that pushed across out that way, started growing up, and this bud grew up. And what it does, it pulls the balance back into that tree. You know, I want that balance. We have to have that balance in that tree. Mark this. Jerry's big girl. Now, something I will tell you about root suckers when you're grafting them. Whenever you're grafting root suckers, those grow exceedingly fast. I mean, they grow fast. That graft takes, I've had this graft right here, doing these grafts on root suckers. I have one year before last, that thing grew 5 foot in the first season. And I mean, it was tremendous. But root suckers, there's something down there. And it goes back to mycorrhizal. It's already there. You're just cutting it loose from the parent tree and you're grafting right there. All the elements that it needs is already there. This right here, I dug up. If I was to pull all this dirt out of here, you know what you would find? You would find the original dirt that this came out of. Why? Because I dug it up in a root ball and I kept that ball together. Why? Because the mycorrhizas that was in there, I didn't want to kill. Because once air gets mycorrhiza, it'll kill it. So I wanted to keep that covered up. So, and that's how I ended up getting such tremendous growth out of root suckers. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Would you ever rework a pawpaw where you've got one that's bigger diameter and you're trying to choose a new variety rather than ripping it out kind of thing?
You can do it in the way of top working, in which I'm getting ready to cover that right now. That right there is a form of top working, and that's exactly what you're talking about. Now, some people like with persimmons, you know, they'll be about that big around, and I'll put 4 of them. But this will be flat. Now that's when I switch over to something like black balsam. It's a tree wound. Not the black tree wound. This here is kind of like a greenish gray color. Because that black tree wound, that what they call tree coat, that's got petroleum in it. That ain't no good for your tree. But this right here actually is a form of top working that people use for top working a tree.